Hello everybody, welcome to Dulcimerica. My name is Futch. Thank you very much for joining me for another look at some music in mountain dulcimer and how to play this thing and how to understand basic music theory to put your all into it. So that's kind of a groovy little thing right there. And when we talk about music, we often talk about the feel of a piece, the grooviness of a piece. And that has to do with timing. And there are so many different words that can come into play that can sometimes be very confusing when you're trying to figure out what someone's talking about. So we're going to try and iron out some of that with a little series on different types of feel in music and what some of these different terms mean and how you can use them to play some really interesting stuff. Let's start off with the basics here. Of course, with our music, we tend to be playing in a particular meter. And we can find out what that meter is by looking at the time signature of a piece, whether it be 2/4 or 4/4 or 3/4 or 5/4 or 6/8 or 12/8. These are all letting us know what the meter is. So what exactly is a meter? A meter is a collection of rhythms that may change throughout a piece, but they have a basic sort of here it comes, a vibe or a groove or a feel. Rhythms, of course, are combinations of note durations. And we have looked at these when we first started playing music of any sort, that we've got whole notes. You can cut those in half and get half notes. Cut those in half, you get quarter notes, you get 8 notes, 16th notes, 32nd notes, 64th notes. And so these are note durations. And the time signature of a piece will let us know what gets the beat, the note duration that is, the most important for us to follow, whether it be the quarter note or the half note or the 8th note or the 16th note for that matter. And so when we look at a piece and we see that time signature, it lets us know basically what gets the beat. The beat, of course, boils down to the feel, the pulse, the thing that we use to count through measures. If the quarter note gets the beat, then we're going to hear 4 pulses in the span of a measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. That in itself right there is a rhythm. I know all of these different terms can be a little crazy, but I think we're going to shed some light on a couple of different things here, especially when it comes to doing something different with the rhythms. There are different types of meter that we'll play. We're going to have simple meter, we're going to have compound meter, and we'll talk about that in some later episodes. But we can hear how very simple and structured something like a quarter note pattern is. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we mix that up maybe with some 8 notes and do our famous bum diddy strum. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1. So we can mix up these combinations of note durations to get more interesting music. But you can tell if we're just playing these sort of basic note durations, the music tends to be very basic as well. So when we hear something really super groovy and interesting, what is that exactly? There's a lot of different things going on in that one little piece of rhythm right there. And one of the things I want to talk about today is how you can take a basic concept of a rhythm and use it without having to stare at a piece of music for a very long time. And we're going to do that in the next couple of episodes as well. So there's something called syncopation, and syncopation is when we take straight rhythms and we sort of throw them in or off kilter. We do little odd bits of movement and things don't feel straight. They feel kind of crooked, but they are consistently sort of crooked, and that gives them their groove. And there are a lot of different ways that we can use syncopation, but one of the ones is by changing note durations. And so there are 3 different ways to look at beats and how we treat them. One is that they're equal. That means if we have a quarter note, then we're going to just count that beat as a quarter note, and that's an equaled deal. And then we've got elongation. That's where we actually add some time, some beats to a note or the duration. We make that duration longer. So if we take a dot and we add it to a quarter note, we know that a dot means we're adding half of the value of that note to itself. What we end up having is an elongated beat at that point. And then we've got divided, and that means we're going to take that quarter note and we're going to cut it in half and make it shorter. So cutting a quarter note in half will give us 2 8 notes. And so this kind of goes back and forth. We can make these notes longer, we can make these notes shorter, or we can play these notes, these beat durations exactly as they were written. And with a combination of all those together, that starts to create the recipe for a meter of a piece, how it ebbs, how it flows, how it gives, how it takes, how it pushes, and how it pulls. It all makes sense. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take a look at an eighth note pair. So of course, if we've got 4 quarter notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we take each one of those quarter notes and we cut them in half, we end up with 2 eighth notes. And we would count that going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Very dependable, very straightforward. And we can play these fast, we can play them slow, but every beat duration, every note duration is equal. We're playing them and they're the same distance apart, right on schedule like this. So many songs are written in a straight eighth note pattern. A good example of a nice even beat duration would be a way of playing Arkansas Traveler. Let's do that one, Arkansas Traveler. So if I play through part of Arkansas Traveler in straight eighth notes, it'll sound like this. One after the other, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and da 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 da. Okay? Now, we're going to introduce some syncopation by changing the durations of these 2 eighth notes. We're going to shorten one of the eighth notes and we're going to lengthen one of the other eighth notes. So what we're going to do is we're going to do what's called a dotted eighth note 16th note pattern. And we're going to take a dot and we're going to add it to the first eighth note in that pair of eighth notes. By doing this, we're adding half of the value of the eighth note to itself. Well, we know from our subdivisions and studies of rhythm that half of an eighth note equals a 16th note. So now we've brought the 16th note into the picture. So if we've already got 2 16th notes inside of 1 eighth note, and we've added a third 16th note to that, we have the dotted eighth note, which has 3 16th notes inside of it. Just to review, to count out 4 16th notes, which all take the place within the span of 1 beat in 4/4 time, we would use the syllabic counting method, 1 E and a, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. So that 1 is the first of the 16th notes that are grouped together, those first of the 4. The E is the second of the 16th notes. The and is the third of the 16th notes, and the is the fourth of the 16th notes. If we took out E and we would be left with 1 and, which would be 2 eighth notes. 1 and. Cut 1 and in half, add those 16th notes back in, and you get 1 E and a. And so that's the real estate we're looking at. We've got these 4 subdivided beats for 16th notes, 1 E and a. So we could pulse that through on the mountain dulcimer like this. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. We can also clap with our hands 1 time for each 16th note. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Now, if we're kind of cruising along, that's going to pick up the speed a little bit here. So let's just think about 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, on a basic 4 beat measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So with that in mind, what we've got here is a dotted eighth note, 16th note. So we've got our eighth note with a dot. That means 3 16th notes are inside of that first half of our pair. what's left over in that span of a beat is one little 16th note hanging out by itself. So we just account for that with one count. So the dotted eighth note is basically one E and the 16th note by itself is one E and . So I'm clapping a bit louder as I move from the first note event to the second one. One E and . One E and . Ba, ding, bum, 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 bum. And you see what's happening is we're no longer treating these two eighth notes as equal. Always on time, boom, 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 boom. What we've done now is we've added more baggage to the first eighth note, and we've taken some baggage from the second eighth note. So instead of them going perfectly clockwork like this, now the first of that pair, the dotted eighth note, is going to hang out a little while longer, and then the second of that pair, which is now a 16th note, is going to pass much quicker, and we get a lopsided sort of feel. One E and two E and three E and four E and one E and two E and three E and four E and bum 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 bum. Now I'm going to go too fast now for me actually to count and keep up, but as I keep doing this, you'll hear that we get. It sounds like a flat tire compared to what we had before. Something, our eighth note pair has now got a flat tire of some sort. It's a little lopsided, but it's got a very specific rhythm all its own. So we're going to start with 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and now we go to our 16 dotted eighth note, 16th note. 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. So it's got a little hanging out and then quick and then hanging out and then quick again. So without you having to think too much about the counting and all that, you can simply think that this dotted eighth note and 16th note pattern feels like, I don't know, it's kind of swingy, it's kind of shuffly, isn't it? And that basically is a swing rhythm, is a dotted eighth note, 16th note pair. And this is a syncopation that moves the beat a little off center and makes things very interesting. So let me do our Arkansas Traveler again. I'm going to play it first with the straight eighth notes, and then I'm going to swing the eighths. I'm going to do and replace each time I've got two eighth notes in a row. I'm going to replace them with a dotted eighth note and a 16th note so you can hear the difference and see how the groove, the feel, changes. Here's our straight eighths. And now, here's swinging eighths. Well, that's kind of fun, isn't it? Instead of being kind of just so straight and da-da-da-da-da-da-dum, it's got a little bounce to it. Dun-da-dun, da-dun, da-dun. And that kind of makes you move your body a little bit more. And that's the whole purpose of syncopation, to make the rhythms a bit more interesting, a little more complex. But what will often happen in a piece of music is you'll see the music written out, and let's say there are two different examples. One will be you open up your music book, or you look at your tablature and you see a whole bunch of dotted eighth notes and 16th notes. And the first thought might be, oh my gosh, what is all that? That looks crazy. But hopefully now you'll be able to simply look at it, recognize it, and go, I see what's going on here. This is a swing rhythm, so we're just going to put more emphasis on the first of the pair, less emphasis on the second pair, and then kind of get that lopsided groovy feel. Sometimes, and I'm one of those people, I don't like to put all the dotted eighth notes and 16th notes in there because it just makes the tablature a messy thing, and it's kind of imposing, really. So oftentimes, merely at the very, very front of the piece, it'll say something like swing the eighths, or slightly swung, or play in a swing rhythm. And that basically means whenever you encounter these eighth notes, this doesn't really affect quarter notes, but it's going to affect your 8 notes and notes that come in pairs. You're going to swing those and give them this feel that we've got right there with Arkansas Traveler. Again, playing straight versus playing with a swing. Another example would be playing Rosin the Bow. And remember, you're going to hear the swing and feel the swing when there are 8 notes present. It won't be there when you hear the quarter notes, because we're playing those quarter notes as equaled, and we're not changing the duration. But when you get to the 8 notes where the duration's been changed, then you're going to feel the swing. This is Rosin the Bow played with straight 8s. When we swing it, it's got just a little bit more personality. It's got just a little bit more of a loose vibe, even though we're still staying with very structured time. And that, my friends, is the magic of syncopation, or if you want to call it groove or feel, whatever it might be. So I know there's a whole lot of stuff I've unpacked here, but we're going to be coming back in the next few weeks and looking at some different time signatures, some different types of syncopation, and different things that we can use that instead of you having to stare at a piece of music for a long period of time, you can simply say, this is the feel I'm going for, and this is what I need to do in order to make it happen. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you guys for tuning in. Big love to all of my patrons on Patreon for helping to continue produce these episodes of Dulcimerica, and I will see you next week.